All right. Good morning, everybody. We'll take a few minutes for some announcements because this seems to be a good time. Did you all have a good time yesterday? Yes? And you're not just here because of the cool rooms. And okay, that's good. But even that would be forgiven because today is going to be perhaps record-breaking, definitely tomorrow. So we have a few announcements of like-minded events and conferences. Let me just start with one organized by the city of Vienna. It's the European Cities Conference taking place 14th and 15th of September. And it has a focus theme on digital humanism, making it happen in the cities and administrations. So there have been some discussions about this already yesterday. I think it's a good event. I'm a keynote there, which I completely forgot, but I was reminded this morning, so I'll also be there. And then we have an announcement of, I think, what is kind of the new research meeting for the digital humanism people. And I would like to invite Bajar, who is a dear friend of digital humanism, has been with us for many years, is a member of the steering committee, and is also with the, what was it? The City St. George University of London. Is that approximately correct? Dean there, and he's going to introduce the research conference, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you. Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks for the introduction and for giving me the opportunity to speak a little bit about the conference. The research conference, which I think the slide is going to show in a second, is the second edition of an international interdisciplinary conference on digital humanism. So I think a conference like this has given us an opportunity to have multiple perspectives being presented from different domains, from different disciplines, from practice and from research. The idea with the research conference is that we want to try and advance the area, but we don't really understand yet exactly what that means. It could mean contributions from your different disciplinary perspectives, but it also might mean some integration and merging and interplay between the different disciplines that make up digital humanism. So I hope you will consider coming to Munich on the 10th to 12th of March 2027. The conference is co-chaired by a number of disciplinary experts from philosophy, cognitive science, social sciences, law, yes, absolutely. And so it covers a whole range of disciplines, and we will try our best to make sure that the discipline leads are reviewing your submissions and your contributions from their perspective, but also trying to create sessions that might bring disciplines together. The deadline is not on this slide, it's on the 15th of July for extended abstracts only. The idea is that you submit extended abstracts and then we work with you over the next few months to actually produce some papers that will be published after the conference itself, so that we'll have post-proceedings, so that the actual conference is a discussion and an opportunity to improve the work, not just to present it. And I think that's the nature of the discipline, I hope. So I would encourage you to put those dates in your calendar, to consider what it might mean to submit a paper to digital humanism. But also, if you feel that you don't want to submit a paper, perhaps propose a session. We also have a track there for you to propose a sub-session on a particular topic. And again, we will work with you to try and make that a reality. So please do join us, and I hope to see you in Munich in 2027. Thank you.
And another quick announcement for the next Digital Humanism event in Vienna. We have the 5th edition of the Digital Humanism Summer School. That's like a week-long program with great sessions, and we have a few spots left. Go to the webpage, and if you're interested in it, also we have AC, so it will be cool. And we have we will be at the Austrian Parliament and also at the City Hall. And thank you.
It was Walter Palmetzhofer from TU Wien, Keimel. My name is Katja Meyer. I'm the program chair of this conference. For those of you new here today, and I have to say the downside of being the program chair is that you create your own FOMO, constant FOMO. I can only report now from yesterday a bit from the sessions that I actually managed to visit, including the moment of perfect coincidence here, when just as the words sovereignty and dependency were spoken in this room, we had a blackout. So it seems we really do need to choose our words carefully here. So I think from what I have heard yesterday, we have a very clear message. AI cannot be discussed only through big promises, abstract values, or future scenarios. We need the concrete methodological capacity to test what systems actually do under real conditions and to compare this with what companies and institutions claim they do. Ruman reminded us that democracy, safety, and rights depend very much not only on some ethical principles, but also on the infrastructures, but also on the skills to contest these infrastructures, which should be somehow independent of these infrastructures. We also learned that AI is not simply a technology, of course, but a dense political economy of labor, dependency, extraction, and control, like many other technologies, by the way. We heard that why voices of data workers, content moderators, and digitally managed workers, surveilled workers, must be part of the conversation, why skills, rights, and solidarity matter. Cecilia pushed us to understand control beyond ownership and the complex dependencies through which value is captured across and with the cloud as a marketplace, as a whole ecosystem, and of course also having influences on how knowledge is produced. And in the discussion with young people in the session on social media, we saw how difficult it is, especially in this moment of time when next week we have our law for social media coming in, will be enacted, how complex and hard it is to regulate platforms built around attention capture and addictive design without creating new risks for rights and freedoms. And this is also why young people themselves must be brought to the table. We had two of them there yesterday, very eloquently telling us repeatedly why it's so important to have them in the conversation, and why also the German Ethics Council, as Judith Simon yesterday reported, the German Ethics Council refusal of a simple social media ban is such an important reminder. Protection and democratic participation have to be thought together, right? And yesterday we also heard from wonderful initiatives that remind us why this work matters in practice. Payal Aurora also reminded us that we have to understand resistance to technology is a privilege. You have to be able to afford resistance. We heard from NGOs such as Data Lab working with inhabitants of favelas in Rio de Janeiro on citizen-generated data and showing how data activism can be used carefully as a tool of empowerment. As they put it, I don't know where Gilberto is, to postpone a bit the end of the world. We also heard from industry actors who, despite having to navigate more than 23 definitions of fair AI, they are nevertheless eager to bring more ethical reflection and responsibility into their operations. So, yes, it's really important to think about all these things, but it's also really important that we just don't follow the big narratives that are put upon us, just the big players. It's important. Yes, they have their IPOs now. They are responsible for a lot of concentration of power and capital and our growing dependency to their infrastructures. But it's really important. I think this will be my kind of call to you for today, also for the second day, to see and not lose sight of what has already been achieved, the many good users of technology and the many actors who are building better tools with learning machines in specialized fields, often under very difficult conditions. This is why I think the second day, we will need to push a bit even further towards this idea of implementation, and we will see in a lot of sessions how critical perspectives are already being translated into practice, even when this is very demanding, imperfect, and not always easy, just like our democracy. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Katja. just a little bit of housekeeping. You may have noticed in the schedule for today, it's actually different from yesterday. It's subtly different. So times are a bit different. I'm just mentioning this because we had to squeeze in another panel over lunch. So this is why things are a bit timed a bit differently from yesterday. After the talk by Bruce Schneier on integrity in a world of AI, moderated by Misha Glenny, who many of you will know from his time here in Vienna. He has sadly now moved to London, but we are a forgiving lot, so we welcome you still. Thanks for being here. We then have at 10:30, after the coffee break, again 3 sessions. In the coffee break, please also visit downstairs the Zeilinger room, where we have interactions with the students from the PhD college. And during the lunch break there is a drone intervention. I promise it's a civil drone. And then in the afternoon, just like yesterday, 3 sessions in parallel. And I have to say, for the closing session, this is a bit peculiar. Annuncio vobis Gaudia Magna. We have a reading from the papal encyclical. However, unfortunately, this is in German. So apologies to the people not speaking German. We had to do this because it's with a comedian. We could do it in Latin. It has just recently published in Latin. Actually, Dirk Stermann was asking about doing it in Latin. Anyway, enough from me. It's a great honor and pleasure to welcome our keynote speaker, and I believe he's going to be introduced by Misha Glenny. Misha, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. As Eric pointed out, I was until the end of March this year the rector of the Institute for Human Sciences here in Vienna, and I've now moved back to London to host a radio program called In Our Time. But in another life, in 2011, I first came across today's keynote speaker, Bruce Schneier. I had just published a book called Dark Market, How Hackers Became the New Mafia. And so I was invited to conferences, information security conferences, to discuss about my conversations with criminal hackers, which formed the basis of the book. And it was at one of these conferences that by chance, today's keynote speaker, Bruce, was also addressing an audience. And listening to him that day transformed my understanding of the relationship between security, privacy, and society. He is simply one of the most, if not the most influential writer on information security and privacy. And if you don't already follow him on Cryptogram or Schneier on Security, his newsletter, I would urge you to join the 250,000 people, including myself, who already subscribe to it, because it is incredibly illuminating and useful. Bruce will talk, I think, for about 45 minutes or so, 40 minutes, less than that, but he's very keen on having a discussion with the audience. So anything you want to ask Bruce, this is a tremendous opportunity to engage with him. Don't hesitate to hold back. So I shall take questions after his initial remarks. In the meanwhile, let me welcome to the stage Bruce Schneier from the Monk School in University of Toronto.
Good morning and thank you. It's actually really hard to talk about AI because things change so fast. Literally things that I write 2 weeks ago, I end up rewriting. Things that I write 2 months ago are completely obsolete. So everything I say to you might not be true 2 months from now. And it's really important to understand how fast this is moving. And it's not just the tech, it is the tech and the socialization. Right? The tech is coupled to society. Society changes in relation to the tech, but the tech does affect how we make decisions. So a lot of things I'm going to talk about depend on current trends, which might change. So I do want to talk about basically AI and trust, which is really about power and really about integrity. And I don't mean moral integrity, I mean data integrity. But really, this is about trust. And I want to make 4 basic arguments. The first is that there are 2 kinds of trust. There's interpersonal trust and social trust, and that we regularly confuse them. And what matters here is social trust, which is really about reliability and predictability. 2, that confusion will increase with artificial intelligence, especially personal agents, and that the corporations controlling AI like that confusion because they use it to take advantage of us. 3, that this is a security problem. It really is an integrity problem, and that integrity, I think, is the primary security challenge for AI systems. And lastly, this is a regulatory problem. That it's effectively government's role to enable social trust in society, so I need government to incent trustworthy AI. So that's the basic talk. My goal is to leave a bunch of time at the end for questions and comments, because I think a lot of this depends on what you want to know about. And I think that some of the most interesting things come out when I'm answering questions on how things work, because there's a lot of misunderstanding about how things work, especially the difference between the tech and the corporations controlling the tech. Really important to understand where something is, how much of it is AI, and how much of it is capitalism, basically. All right, so let's talk about trust. It is a complicated concept. The word is overloaded with a lot of different meanings. There is a personal and intimate trust. When I say that I trust a friend, it's less about their actions and more about them as a person, right? Some general reliance that they'll behave in a trustworthy manner. That's interpersonal trust. But there's also a less intimate, less personal trust. I might not know someone personally or their motivations, but I can still trust their behavior. Right? That's more about reliability, predictability, and that's social trust. Right? That's the ability to trust strangers. That's the ability for all of us to trust everyone else in this room. And both are essential to society. From a security perspective, this is how I think about it. We have mechanisms that induce people to behave in a trustworthy manner. This allows others to be trusting. This enables trust, and that keeps society functioning. Right? It's not perfect. There are always criminals. There are always people behaving untrustworthy. But most of us being trustworthy most of the time is good enough. And there's a lot written about the difference in living in high trust and low trust societies. It's all really important literature. For me, what's critical is that social trust scales better. Right? And that scale is important. You can ask a friend to deliver a package across town, or you can ask the post office. Right? The first is based on interpersonal trust. You know your friend, you know how reliable they are. The second is a service made possible by social trust. Both will get your package delivered, but only the second becomes a global package delivery service like FedEx. But because we use the same word for both, we regularly confuse them. And when we do that, we're making a category error. We do it all the time with governments, with organizations, with systems of all kinds, especially with corporations. We think of them as friends when they're services. And we're going to make the same category error with AI. We're going to think of them as friends when they're not. So there's an interesting through line from governments to corporations to AI. Charlie Stross, he's a science fiction writer, he calls corporations slow AI. Right? They're profit-maximizing machines, and the most successful ones do whatever they can to achieve that singular goal. David Runciman, he teaches at University of Cambridge, he has a really interesting book called The Handover. And in it, he describes governments, corporations, and AI together as superhuman machines more powerful than their components. Ted Chiang, another science fiction writer, he made a really, I think, profound comment like 3 years ago when he said that most people's fears of AI are actually misplaced fears of capitalism. Right? It's not the AI, it's who controls it and how it's being used against you. And if you think about it, the parable of the paperclip maximizer is pretty much every startup's business plan. But this isn't new. This is the story of the internet. Right? Surveillance and manipulation are its business models. Enshittification is a thing. But we use these services as if there are agents working on our behalf. Google search, social media. But in fact, these are all double agents. They're working for their corporate masters. We trust them even though they're not trustworthy. They're not friends, they're services. So it's going to be the same with AI, and I think it'll be worse for several reasons. The first is that AI systems are more relational. Right? We converse with them using natural language, and as such, because we are human, we naturally ascribe human-like characteristics of them. We do it in our language, we do it in our thought. But that relational nature makes it easier for double agents to do their work. Right? Did a chatbot recommend a particular airline or hotel because it's the best deal for you, or because they got some advertising kickback on the back end? Right? Is it biasing political explanations towards whoever's giving it money or towards the politics of its owners? Right? That conversational interface can hide the AI's agenda. The second reason is power. Right? Sometimes we have no choice but to trust something because they are powerful. Right? We're forced to trust the local police because they're the only law enforcement in town. We're forced to trust some corporations because we have no alternatives. Or maybe a better way to say it is that we have no choice but to entrust ourselves to them. We are in many cases in the same position with AI. Right? Most AI that we use, we don't go to use. It is used on us. Right? It is the AI search results that we get whether we want to or not. And it's right on top, so we read it whether we want to or not. Right? It's the AI that's controlling our Facebook feed, whether we want it to or not. There's no alternative. It's the AI that's giving us turn-by-turn directions. Right? We have no choice but to entrust ourselves to its decision-making. And the third reason I'm concerned is because of the intimacy here. Right? The notion of an AI digital assistant, right? An assistant to us, an advocate for our behalf on others, making that work requires a greater intimacy than your search engine, your email provider, your cloud storage system, your phone. Now, you want it with you 24/7, training on everything you do. Last week, Google announced a system where they're going to have Android phones on all the time so the AI can listen to your day and figure out what's important to you. I mean, that's both like great and horrible. We want that, but we want it to be trustworthy. We don't want it if Google's going to take that data and use it against us. But as these systems become incorporated in our lives, we will default to thinking of them as friends. Right? They have convincing voice, confident tone, authoritative manner. It uses our mannerisms and cultural references. Right? You think about all the people that have been seduced by AI relationships. Why? I mean, go look at some of the chats. Go try it out. It is surprisingly seductive, because these AIs are optimized to be that way. I mean, all of this is a long-winded way of saying we need trustworthy AI, we understand their behavior, limitations, training, biases. Right? We know its values and goals. We know it's going to work in our interest and not secretly betray it to somebody else. And another thing, that it's secure against hacking. So we know it delivers the results it promises to. Right? Because social trust is all about reliability and predictability. And we create social trust through laws and technologies. And here we actually need both. The failures come from two places. They come from the powerful corporations manipulating the AIs. We talked about that a bit. And others manipulating the AIs, hacking them. If you think about it, pretty much all AI systems are used in some sort of adversarial environment. And by that I mean someone has a vested interest in what the AI produces or the data it uses, which means it will be hacked. Right, so let's imagine an AI assistant as an advisor in some international trade negotiation, or as a political strategist, or as a legal researcher. There will be an incentive for someone to hack that AI, maybe a criminal, maybe a government. And it doesn't matter how accurate or capable or hallucination-free the AI system is. If you can't guarantee it hasn't been hacked, it just won't be trusted. At the end of the day, AIs are just computer programs, right? They're written in software, they run on hardware, they're attached to networks, they interact with users. Right? Everything I've been teaching for 20, 30 years about cybersecurity applies to AI systems. And that's actually very scary. But people will use and will trust these systems, even though they're not trustworthy. Trustworthy AI is a very hard technical problem. And really because of how these systems are created, how they evolve, how they learn. They're not normal computer programs. So if any of you ever take a computer security class, you'll learn about something called the CIA Triad. Now, that's not my CIA, it's a different CIA. It stands for confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Right? Those are the three properties that security is supposed to provide. Confidentiality is a known problem, availability as well. Integrity is relatively new. It's a new thing to think about. And it's new and it's important because the internet is changing right now. It's changing again. In this emerging world, which you'll sometimes hear called Web 3.0, the big shift is agency. Computers increasingly have the ability to affect the world. And the internet changes, or the internet shifts from an information medium to a control plane for society. And some of this is the IoT, the Internet of Things, which brings autonomy to many aspects of our lives, like smart homes, smart manufacturing, smart power grid, smart cities, right? And AI accelerates this because these are systems that don't just advise, but they act. They do things directly, right? And in this smart, distributed, connected, autonomous world, integrity becomes the foundation pretty much of all security. Right? Sensors go from data sources to attack surfaces. So GPS, cameras, microphones, temperature probes, fraud signals, human feedback, anything that is input into the system can be attacked. And then actuators go from output to attack capabilities. Door locks, trading systems, industrial controls, medical devices, approval workflows, anything that is output can be weaponized. So without integrity, you get things like the wrong dosage, the wrong valve position, the wrong braking distance, the wrong grid response. This is a world where the lines between safety, reliability, and cybersecurity start to blur. To me, integrity is largely about correctness. It's interesting, it's an overall system property. Right? If you think about it, there's no single correct way for a driverless car to make a left turn. Right? Correctness is an envelope of invariance, constraints, and risk, and integrity is how you keep a system inside that envelope and prove it stayed there, right? Even under attack or error or drift. And most modern attacks against AI, generative AI in particular, are integrity attacks. Right? So putting small stickers on road signs to fool a self-driving car is an integrity attack. Prompt injection is an integrity attack. Right? In both of those cases, the AI model is unable to distinguish between legitimate data and malicious commands. Right? So it's manipulation of the training data, the model, the input, the output, the feedback. These are all integrity attacks. Right? And they're all happening, and they're all things we have to worry about. To me, integrity has four basic parts. Input integrity, right? Do you trust what goes into your system? If the system doesn't have trustworthy inputs, it's not going to make good decisions. Second is processing integrity. Does the system transform inputs to outputs correctly? Now, if the internal workings aren't trustworthy, the output's not going to be trustworthy. Third is storage integrity. Does your system preserve correctness over time? Right? These systems evolve, and something that's correct here might not be correct a month later. And the last one is contextual integrity. Does your system behave as expected? This is a really interesting one. It really is Helen Nissenbaum. She's a legal scholar at NYU. Thinks about that data should respect contextual norms, like who sent it, who received it, under what purposes. So it's more than, is it correct? It's also, is the data being used in a way that people reasonably expect? Right? So your, I don't know, your smart speaker listening for its wake-up word is one context. The service provider using that data for ad targeting is another context. A government turning it into an eavesdropping device is yet another context. Everything's correct, right? But the uses violate contextual integrity. So a few weeks ago, I don't know if you followed, Anthropic released the Fable model. This was their constrained version of Mythos, which in marketing brilliance, they just told everybody that it's so good they can't show it to anyone, and all the reporters immediately wrote how good the model is without ever seeing it. They released it 4 days until President Trump had a pout and blocked them from using it. In those 4 days, we learned a lot about the model. A couple of things. It is not actually better than all the other models. It is just as good as all the other models. Just Anthropic has better marketing. But Simon Willison, an AI researcher worth following if you want to dive into the tech, he called it ruthlessly proactive. What he means by that is that the model is really, really good at doing what you want, whether you want it to or not. This is something I've been thinking about a lot about AI systems. I wrote about this well before generative AI, in like 2000. That in human thought, in human expression, goals and desires are always underspecified. Right? We never can say exactly what we want. So if I ask you for some coffee, you would probably go to, I don't know, down the hall and get me a cup, or you go downstairs to a coffee shop and buy me a cup of coffee. Right? You would not bring me a pound of raw beans. You would not buy me a coffee plantation. You wouldn't find someone nearby with a cup of coffee, rip it out of their hands and give it to me. Like, I wouldn't have to tell you any of that. You would just know. Right? Our knowledge of context fills in a lot of the gaps. Now, there are still gaps, right? Maybe I want a cold brew or a Turkish coffee or an Italian coffee, and you wouldn't know which one. But largely, you know what I want. But AIs don't have that same level of context. And if you know myth, there's a lot of stories in our cultures about getting the context wrong. Right? King Midas. Right? Dionysus gives Midas a wish, who wants everything he touches turned to gold, but his food, drink, and daughter turn to gold because he forgot to say, except for them. Right? Genies, stories of genies. Right? They will grant your wish in ways that you wish they hadn't. The story of the golem, right? Who is brought to life as a guard, but guards so effectively that eventually, destroys the community that it is guarding. And these are stories that matter a lot in AI, because they're going to happen. What Willison is noticing, and the story he gives, he sets Fable on a task of looking at a website he's writing and why there's a stray horizontal line. Like, figure out the bug and fix it. And this AI is downloading browsers from the web and is creating tools is getting permissions that it shouldn't have in order to do this very simple task. A Microsoft researcher wrote that it was using Fable, and Fable tried to break out of its memory constraints because it needed more memory to do the thing it was asked to do. Right? These are all stories of the genie, right? That are granting your wish in ways you say, well, not exactly that way. I mean, this is going to happen more and more. And this is all about AI integrity. Now, there's a lot to learn about integrity from humans. We have hundreds, if not thousands of years of systems to preserve integrity in our greater systems. So things like double entry bookkeeping, audits, copy editing, checklists of surgical equipment to make sure nothing's left in your body after they sew you up, the peer review system for academic publishing, courtroom rules of evidence, financial reporting rules, right? Even the regulations around food and restaurant safety. We've been building systems that enforce integrity since forever. And understanding how they work, how they fail, how they can be subverted, all that is critical to understanding integrity in AI systems. So I think of this in terms of the evolution of the internet. So Web 1.0, early 90s, 2000s, was all about availability. If you remember those years, individuals, organizations rushing to put their content online creates the massive repository of human knowledge that we know today. But making information available overshadowed everything else. Web 2.0, the current web, like mid-2000s to today, is all about confidentiality. This is the read-write web, where your private data needs to remain private. So think of online banking, e-commerce, social media, anywhere you're a participant, anywhere you have an account. And there, confidentiality is paramount. So Web 3.0 is the digitized, distributed, decentralized, intelligent web of tomorrow. So peer-to-peer networking, distributed data ownership and storage, Internet of Things, AI agents, all of these require verifiable, trustworthy data and computation, right? Integrity. There is no real-time car-to-car communication without integrity. There is no drone coordination or smart power grid or reliable mesh networking, and there are no useful AI agents. So I've been arguing for about a year now that integrity is really the key security problem of the next decade. And it's a hard problem, and it hasn't gotten a lot of attention. But as we see these systems sort of interacting with people, if we don't have it, they're not going to work. And in a lot of ways, this is a question that rivals the internet itself. The internet was created to see if we could build a reliable system in an unreliable world. Right? And then after that, can we build a secure system? Or confidentiality is paramount in a world of surveillance. And now I want to know, can I build an integrous system out of non-integrous parts in a non-integrous world? And that is a deep technical question, right? But it is not solely a technical problem. Because even with technical solutions, the market is not going to provide integrity, social trust on its own. And corporations are profit maximizers. They work at the expense of society. They build systems in their own interest and invest in security that protects their interest, not yours. It is government that provides the underlying mechanism of social trust. And think about, anything, contract law, laws about property, or any of the health and safety codes that let you board a plane or eat at a restaurant or buy a pharmaceutical. Right? The more that you can trust that your social interactions are reliable and predictable, the more that you can ignore the details. And when I landed in Vienna, I got into a car of a stranger who took me to my hotel. That's kind of crazy, but it works. And it works because of social trust. So I need government to do that same thing with AI. And it's things like transparency laws, laws regulating AI safety, laws regulating the behavior as double agents. How much can an AI spy on you? How much can it manipulate you? What are the minimum security standards for the computers and the AIs? And I need laws that enforce AI security, which means recognizing when the laws are broken and penalties large enough to incent trustworthy behavior. Right? I'm here in the EU. You people are really good at substantial penalties to these companies. I come from the US, which is terrible at that. Right? Our penalties tend to be rounding errors on attorney fees. But I need government to really push for change in these corporate systems. The goal isn't to make AI into our friends. I don't think that's possible. But I think we can make them into trustworthy services, right? Agents and not double agents. And it is well within government's power to do this. And I think it's essential for government to do this. Right? The point of government is to create social trust. So I started this talk by explaining the importance of trust in society, how interpersonal trust doesn't scale to larger groups, and how that other impersonal kind of trust, social trust, reliability and predictability, is what governments create. Now, I know this is going to be hard. Right? Today's governments have a lot of problems effectively regulating slow AI, corporations. Now I need them to regulate fast AI. But they have to. Like, we need government to constrain the behavior of corporations and the AIs they build, deploy, control. Well, I need government to enforce reliability and predictability. So if you're looking for a project, I kind of gave 3 work streams to facilitate trust in AI. The first is AI security, as we know it traditionally. The second is AI integrity, more broadly defined and much more social. And 3 are AI regulations, which aligns incentives. I think we need all of these, and we need them soon, because this is how we're going to create the social trust that society needs in an AI era. So thank you. So very often after these talks, I go back to my notes and add all the things that I should have said because they changed in the past week. A couple of things I do want to talk about. Mentioned it previously. It is real important to when you look at an AI issue to separate whether it is a tech issue or it's a corporation issue. A lot of the things we think about and talk about as AI problems are actually corporate problems. The fact that the AI is overconfident, the fact that it is overly flattering, the fact that it is more likely to say a wrong thing than to say, I don't know. These are all corporate choices. This is not the tech. This is the companies deciding that they're going to give you a system more profitable to them by doing it that way. A lot of the things about AI are not about the tech. Things about energy use, water use. This is fundamentally a capitalism problem. New York Times today, there's an article about the Chinese models that are all much smaller and cheaper than the large megacorp monopolistic US models. And it's sort of interesting history. DeepSeek a couple of years ago came out, much smaller, much cheaper. Came out of China because the US denied China access to the best chips. So rather than setting fire to large piles of money, which is the way the US companies do it, the Chinese had to innovate. And you got actually much better engineering. And it seems like the world prefers smaller, cheaper models. And I think this makes a lot of sense. And it's same with humans. When you hire a human, you don't look for the single best human in every possible domain. You hire the best human for what you want. So we're starting to see AIs that are good travel agents or investment counselors or relationship coaches or physicists, right? Whatever the thing is, the AI smaller will be optimized to that. And a lot of these systems don't run in the cloud, don't use data centers. They run on your computer, on your device. Apple's working on an AI that's going to run on your phone. It's going to run on your phone. And I worry that this massive overbuilding of data centers is going to be the exact same thing as dark fiber in the early 2000s. Like, lay out all this cable and nobody needed it. It's been interesting to watch how the cheaper models compare to the top models. In the 4 days of Fable, we learned that, and this is actually mostly true, it's not single models now, it's consortiums of multiple models. So 3 or 4 small models working together equal performance of the top tier models. Again, it's just like people. Instead of hiring one expert, you hire 4 good people and they work together and do a better job. And AI is following this same trajectory. That's the good part. The bad part is that as these models go out of the hands of the corporate behemoths, a lot of our security controls go away. You hear a lot of talk about guardrails. Right? So actually, I'll do a little bit of tech. I've decided about 3 weeks ago that everyone needs to understand the difference between a model and a harness. Right? So the model is the AI that we all talk about, the large language model, the thing that does the magic. The harness is all the software between you and that AI. And there's a lot of software there. It's the software between what you type, what the model sees, what the model produces, and what you read. This harness is where a lot of the control is. It's where, if there are guardrails, that's where they are. If there's anti-bias, that's where that is. If it's controlling multiple models, figuring out who does what, integrating the answers, it's where that is. All of that. Now, if that harness is controlled by Anthropic or OpenAI, it can enforce things like don't tell people how to build a nuclear bomb, or create a cyber weapon, or create a bioweapon. But once those models are downloaded to your computer, you can delete all of that. Right? We have no way to implement any of this AI safety outside of the harness. And if these models become distributed, controls on the harness disappears. So that actually is enormous danger, right? As these open source, homegrown, smaller, cheaper models become ever more capable. So that is something we are seeing. I think I'm going to stop here and see if there are questions. I could probably do this forever. You're the first person I saw. We're going to give people microphones. And send a microphone back there. I saw hands back there. So the other microphone person, go back there.
Alan Greenspan passed away last week.
Indeed.
And under his term as the chair of the Federal Reserve Bank, the dot-bomb happened. And he admitted later that his big mistake was he believed that markets were self-regulating. And discovered to his shock that they were not.
Well, like every smart person knew it wouldn't. I mean, but yes, I get that.
But somehow we seem to not have yet to learn that markets are not self-regulating. That's the biggest myth that still persists.
I mean, a lot of the issues here are capitalism problems, and the lack of regulation is a huge issue. Here, I'm looking to you people, looking to the EU. I mean, I come from the U.S. We are dysfunctional. We cannot regulate. The money gets what the money wants. I mean, that's the way our system works. It's very anti-democratic. EU is the regulatory superpower on the planet. And the Brussels effect is real. When you pass GDPR in the 90s, my privacy improves, even though I'm not a European. And that law becomes a model for California, for other US states. So the Digital Services Act, Digital Markets Act, the EU AI Act, these are all really important laws. And to the extent the EU can keep doing this, I think it's really good for the world. I don't know how to fight this notion that the market magically makes things better. It seems pretty obvious that it doesn't. But we do need to fight that. And it's becoming more important. I mean, as income inequality grows, as these systems become more powerful, I mean, so So you take a thought experiment. Imagine an AI as a medical assistant. I think it's going to be phenomenal. Right? It'll be better diagnostician, better at data analysis. It could provide much better medicine. So two ways this could go. You can imagine giving every doctor a personal assistant, and that doctor becomes a better doctor, right? Able to spend more time with patients, talk to them, better bedside manner, a more caring medical professional. Or you can imagine the company controlling the medical practice, giving that doctor 5 times the patients and firing for the 4 other doctors. Both of those are equally possible. That doesn't depend on the AI. That depends on the corporates, the medical system, right? You know, places where there's socialized medicine, you probably get the former. The US, I'm going to get the latter. And I think that's a big deal. Someone has a microphone back there, hopefully. Okay.
Hi, Klaus Speidel. I'm a philosopher working at Austrian Institute of Technology, and I've been thinking a lot about AI culture. And you insisted a lot on the idea that integrity would come from context. But I'm wondering whether the fact that I don't give an answer if I don't have an answer is not largely also culture-based. So could culture be also a key to kind of get to integrity beyond context?
I mean, it is culture, but to have the AI give you an answer is a corporate choice. The corporations have written the AI to do that. There are AIs that don't do that, that are non-corporate. One of the things you all should know are developments in public AI. These are AIs that are not created by corporations. I wrote a book on AI and democracy published last year where I talk about this pretty in length. And I'm writing it last summer, and it was largely aspirational. But in October, somebody did it, and it's Switzerland. There is an AI model called Apertus out of Switzerland. It is created by a consortium of Swiss universities with funding from the government. It used no illegally taken copyright material. It used no poorly paid third world labor. It was entirely created with renewable hydropower. They use existing data centers, so no new rare earth minerals mined. It might be the only fully moral AI in the world today. It is not state-of-the-art. It's about a year behind state-of-the-art, but that was their intention. Right? They didn't want to compete up here. They wanted to build something broadly useful, free for use, free for the public to build on, more like public infrastructure. I mean, you can go online and use Apertus today. And I know right now they're working on a follow-on model, which should be out like any week now. I mean, I don't think this is a replacement for corporate AI, but it's something else in the milieu, which I think is really important if we want to incent corporations kind of do the right thing. Who has the microphone? Okay, you should give people the microphone in advance. Otherwise, you are slowing things down. Yes?
Okay.
Go to the back. Go to the back. Lots of people in the back. Give back some love.
Okay,
yes?
great. In his book, The Great Transformation, Karl Polanyi mentions that the economy is there to serve society and not the other way around. And when I think about what we talk about, it's very interesting, the example you gave from Switzerland, because we keep assuming that this has to be part of a corporation. And I know this might sound somewhat communistic for somebody from the United States, but why can't we consider AI to be a public good?
I
know
really good. There's a lot of reasons why you might do that. I mean, yes, the U.S. is not going to do that. Other countries will be smarter. Maybe things like a regulated utility. So in the U.S., we have that sort of halfway between a corporation but highly regulated because they are natural monopolies. So a lot of this will hinge on whether the few frontier labs always make the best things or the thousands of public models catch up. If it goes ground up, that whole corporate stuff is going to collapse on its own. And we don't need to worry about that. If it doesn't, then we might.
Yeah, it may just as a quick follow-up, one thing that you didn't mention, one thing we haven't talked about so far is this idea of social capital, following that of Robert Putnam. Mm-hmm. And if we were to look at the composition of AI as a public good as a means by which we develop social capital within our country, then we're actually doing something with AI that we wouldn't have thought it would have been imaginable otherwise.
And I think that's right. I mean, and so Switzerland did this. Apertus is there as a public good. Singapore is building a public model optimized for Southeast Asian languages, which they feel are not adequately represented by the American corporations. No surprise. Right? So I think we see more of these. This really depends on the cost. Now, how does the cost change to create these things? We are learning a lot about building things smaller and cheaper. And I think that's actually very exciting because that breaks some of this corporate monopolistic structure, the hundreds of billions of dollars, that maybe you don't need that, which I think will be fantastic to see these companies die. Yes.
Hi. I'd like to segue to a bit of a data question here. What is your take on this, the symbol of the Ouroboros, like devouring its own generated data and essentially just collapsing the system in and of itself, because all we have is generated data at this point?
So that is actually a thing. We know that AIs trained on AI output are worse AIs. Right? So you might think of this as, like, let's think of a music AI. You train it on the world's best music, and you get a Mozart. You train it on that Mozart, and you get Salieri. You train it on that, and you get nonsense. So this is actually a real problem, because now we are in a hybrid world where you don't know if anything you read is human written or AI written. And feeding that into the new models is dangerous. So there is a premium on, like, pre-2021 written stuff that is guaranteed human written. So this is not a capitalism problem. This is actually an AI problem. Right? This is a science problem. We don't know how to solve it. Lots of people are working on this because you can imagine this is a real concern. The capitalism problem is things like Google AI summaries. Google, when you go to and do a Google search, you get an AI summary of what the website said. And you're going to read that and then not go to the websites. Google's happy, but, like, why is anyone going to create a website now if humans no longer read it? I mean, I write because you read. If you stop reading, I stop writing. That's the way it's going to go. Right? So if AI consumes all content and then regurgitates it, even if it is accurate, even if it is useful, it's going to remove the incentives for creating the new human content. Right? So I have both a science problem and an economic problem here, but both of them are real. And yes, that is something that I think we worry about a lot. I see a microphone there, and where's the other microphone? All right, go to you first. People in the back. I like people in the back.
Perfect. I have a problem that is, I think, neither corporate nor technical, and this is about the homogenization or the flattening of the diversity of ideas through generative AI. So you probably know the statistic of when ChatGPT came onto the scene, the word delve just went up because the people training it were using this word more often, so the output reflected that. So I'm just thinking, there are studies with, they're letting students write essays about, I don't know, global injustice, and the ideas, the diversity of ideas is shrinking because they're using, the ones that used LLMs, their ideas were shrinking, basically. Yeah. If we have this in the legal system, for example, I don't know, judges using LLMs, is there a risk?
It's a couple of things. So I wrote an essay on this with Ada Palmer. Go look it up, where we talk about this feedback loop. And yeah, so it's not unique to AI, right? Social media did it. Twitter did it. Autocomplete did it. Right? That the technology affects the use of our language, and there is homogenization. That the ideas become fewer, or from ideas to word choices. They are affected by the tech. So this won't be the first time this happens. So yes, we see it in AI. Some of it is due to the fact that, you fight this. If I'm working an email, the AI suggests how I finish my sentences. Like, I hate that, but I can't turn it off. all I can do is refuse to use it. But, you know, it's enticing, it's faster, it's easier. And suddenly we all sound the same. We all sound like what? Like Western American, vaguely libertarian, white, middle-class people, which doesn't feels like a real harm to the planet. So yes, the second half of that is that, and I see this with my own students using AI are not thinking. The way I tell my students about this, and I want you to use this metaphor, is something work or gym. Right? If the goal is to move a bunch of heavy things from here to there, I'm fine if a robot does it. That's great. But at the gym, if a robot lifts weights for me, that's stupid. Because the goal at the gym is not to move the heavy objects from here to there. So you need to know for any task, is it work or is it gym? And I tell my students, when I assign you to write a policy memo, it's not because the world needs more policy memos, right? It's because the act of you writing it is how you learn. It is not work, it is the gym. And you have to treat that assignment as the gym. But there's a lot of incentive in treating it as work. And as we do, I think, yes, we're going to see that homogeneity of ideas. And of course, the feedback loop is going to make that worse. And I think this is a worry. This is not a tech problem. This is a society problem. This is us using it. And you know, yeah, I know. So we need to figure out how to get people to not use it. For me, I can't use AI in writing because for me, writing is thinking. But for a student, they type in their half-baked ideas and they think they get their ideas cleaned up. What they get is their half-baked ideas in like more grammatical form, but they're still half-baked. And they're not going to realize that until they engage with them. I don't know how to answer this. I think we have a lot of issues in academia in this use of these systems as a shortcut to thinking. And yes, I think this is going to be a big problem as we go forward. My guess is we figure out how to solve this. I mean, this feels to me like me complaining about kids these days. And I could argue about the pocket calculator. I can argue about Wikipedia, right? I mean, you could just see the same arguments. I think Aristotle complains about literacy in this same way. Right? I mean, this is not new, but we do need to figure it out. All right. They're going to throw me off the stage eventually. Who has a microphone? Yes.
Thank you for your talk. I have a question about liability and how much of a role that would play. We don't have it in software, and we don't have it in AI output. Munich courts recently.
But I mean, let me tell you, so they're going to go quicker. So that's changing. So last week in Germany, there was a ruling by a court, I actually don't know which court, that
Munich,
that Google was liable for the AI summaries it produces. Google argued that it's just like search, that, you know, it's not our fault. The user can just check the underlying links. The judge says that is bullshit. Right? You wrote this. You took the source and wrote the summary. You are liable for its output. This is huge. Right? Google has something like 2 trillion searches a year. Even if the error rate's like 1 in a million, it's going to be a lot of errors. Right now, there's a court case in Canada. A folk singer, the AI summary said they were a child molester. They are not. Their tour got canceled. They are suing Google. This is, I mean, so I think liability is real important here. Also in Canada, a couple of years ago, Air Canada sold a user a fare for like $1 and then said, well, no, we didn't mean to because the AI who did it. The court said, again, that's bullshit, right? It's your AI, you're responsible for it. So I think liability is really important here. It will kill certain business models. I'm okay with that. I mean, there should be no difference between a human that represents a corporation and an AI that represents a corporation. So I think we're seeing that change. It's be interesting to watch as this goes. The corporations will fight this a lot because there's a lot of money at stake here. But this feels really important. All right. They're asking me to wrap up. I will take one more short question. You have a microphone.
So, thank you. There's a subfield of AI research called AI explainability. And, you know, companies are kind of acting consistent with that by saying, and I'll put it in quotes, or admitting, I'll put that in quotes, that they don't completely understand what their systems are doing. I'm trying to square that with the idea of, well, it's just software, which is what you said, just programming. So the first question is,
you don't get two questions.
Is that
You get
just
one short
marketing?
question.
Is that just marketing by the companies?
Let me so I think explainability is largely a red herring. So the most unexplainable intelligence systems are you people. I have no freaking clue what goes on in your head. I could put probes in it and I barely understand how your brain works. That is the most unexplainable, opaque system we have. So we are already at maximal unexplainability and we work just fine. We tend to work on your output. Like if you're racist, I don't know or care how you're racist, just care that you're racist. I want you not to be. On a contrast, AIs, they're a lot more explainable. We can look at absolutely everything they do. They are incredibly complex, so we don't really know what's going on, but we can run experiments. I can run an AI 1,000,000 times and test something. I can't do that with you people. I can open an AI up and look at everything that's happening. I can't open up your brain. They don't let me. Right? So there's a lot of really good research in AI explainability because it is so transparent. It's just complex. It's big data. It's big science. It's hard. But it's way better than it was even a year ago. And it'll be way better in a year. We're going to learn a lot more about how this system works. Companies want this because they want to know how to make AI forget because they're afraid of lawsuits. And the last thing Google wants, if they're told to, let's say, I'm going to make this up, you must forget Harry Potter, to have to retrain their AI at the cost of a bunch of tens of millions of dollars. They want to push a button and it forgets Harry Potter. So they really incented to make that work. But that is much better than it was. But I don't think we need to worry about it because we're already dealing with unexplainable humans. Right? Whenever I ask you an explanation, we know you're just making it up. Right? It's ex post. It's not real. A lot of psychology about that. Anyway, I'm going to leave the stage. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having this conference. I mean, tech and humanism is really important. And I want more people thinking about it because it's not what the corporations want. It should be what we want. And we have to know what we want and understand it. We're never going to get there. So thank you.